Okay, hey, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. It's Sam with another author interview for you. If you didn't know already, I'm here with author K.A. Thomsen, also known as Era, author of the Griffin's Egg series and maybe some other fantasy work. Hey, Era.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Thanks for joining us this morning. Sorry for the slight delay in getting started. There were some technical difficulties. We all have those usually at the worst possible time when you're about to do a meeting. So, or maybe I mean, if it's depending on the meeting, it's the best possible time. But no, I'm glad to be here this meeting. So I'm glad we got it all set up. So, yeah, thanks everyone out there also for tuning in and being here today. So Era is a fantasy author and has written a series called The Griffin's Egg, but I'll let her tell you more about that in a minute. I'm very grateful that she's come on to answer some of our questions. And Era, you're on the West Coast, is that right?
Yeah, I'm on the west coast of British Columbia in Canada, actually.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, more than I realized, more west than I realized. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm in Central, and I moved here from Eastern, meaning a lot of my friends and such are from Eastern. So some of us are getting ready for lunch, but you it's like 9 a.m. So thank
yeah,
you
it's 9 a.m. here.
for getting up early and all that stuff to join us. And so I appreciate it. Um, So as always, I have some questions prepared, but I also want to make this an interactive discussion. So if you're watching in here today, if you're watching the whole thing or you just tune in for a few minutes, if you're a fan, a reader, an aspiring author, a fantasy aficionado, whatever, post your questions in the chat about reading, writing, publishing, fantasy fandom, or any of those things, because we want to hear from you too. Okay, so should be a good time. Era, if you could please give us a quick overview of, just for those who aren't familiar, of your books, your major writing work, who you are, all that stuff, and just tell us about the Griffin's Egg and anything else you were working on.
Yeah, so I'm a self-published indie author. I started with a junior fiction young adult series. Well, actually, I've been working on the Griffin's Egg series since I was 16. It's been a long time. And since then I've learned a lot. It was the third fantasy novel I attempted to write. The first two kind of died in the middle stages. And this one I was just really determined to finish and get it all the way through, but I kind of got stuck in the middle. They say the middle of a novel is like a desert.
Isn't it always? Yeah, I feel like when I'm either writing or like watching a show or reading a book too.
Yeah, like in the middle of every novel there's a desert, and you just have to keep writing to get through it. And I knew that I was stuck, so I went back to and I plus I had a toddler as well. I don't know. I was a little crazy. Like I kept writing when my kids were little, and I was just so determined to break through. So I went back to one of my resources, the Artist Way. And when I was first unblocking in my early 20s, I used it a lot. And so I was stuck in the middle of my fantasy novel and I didn't know how to finish it. I just kept writing more and more stories, and it wasn't really contributing to the overall arc of the book, or of the. I didn't realize it would be a trilogy at that point. At that point, I think I realized it would be more than one book, but I didn't know how many. So yeah, I went back to this exercise where you revive an old project. And the old project I revived was The Hidden Valley. It became two books. It was an idea that I had when I was only 10, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been inside my head for a long time, but I grew up in sort of like this really wild, sheltered valley on the west coast of BC on a peninsula on the ocean.
Okay.
And so it was sort of this concept of like this hidden treasure hidden away from most of the world that there's wildlife and people living there that most people aren't aware of. And so in this Ranch Kids books, I gave it a little bit of a sci-fi twist where there were ice age flora and fauna still living in this valley that the kids discovered.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so
So that's I was gonna ask that one's not fantasy necessarily, but it's
it's
mostly realism with some light sci-fi.
mostly realism. Yeah, with a little bit of like I'd say alternate history because the alternate history contributed to the alternate future.
I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Cool. Okay. You said that was that two books you said?
yeah, it was two books. I
Hidden
ended
Valley.
up.
Okay. Okay. And then the Griffin's Egg is a trilogy? Or
Yeah, the
it's
Griffin's Egg is a trilogy. Yeah,
okay. Can you tell us like what's the premise and stuff for that one?
so it's basically I kind of wanted to do a book that was very like traditionally fantasy, like all those traditional elements that like were pioneered by C.S. Lewis and George MacDonald and J.R.R.
Yeah.
Tolkien. And very
Okay.
like stick to like the elements, so like but make it a female protagonist.
Okay.
So I created the characters for an English 9 assignment actually when I was like 14. And I sort of was thinking maybe one day I would write a book or something with them. And it started in my head as kind of like a Greek myth,
Cool.
like where she was going to like, she's sort of like, a princess who rides through the forest on her unicorn and,
Mhm.
you know, does feats of epic greatness. That's all I really knew. And that she would, become this like figure of lore and people would think about her. But I
Cool.
had no idea what else, like what she would actually do.
Hey, you gotta start somewhere. Gotta start with an idea.
Yeah, so I started and I was like, well, there could be this mountain, kind of like Olympus, where she's trying to like ascend to or like communicate with the higher powers up on this mountain. And then
Hmm.
when I restarted writing it in my 20s, I felt like the Holy Spirit was saying, like, no, that's going to go too worldly. Like, kind of want you to make it more Christian.
Okay.
So, yeah, so then the, I guess, spiritual system came more based on Christianity.
Sure. Also, like
And
Tolkien and Lewis and a lot of those guys.
yeah, it became more based on that. Yeah, so then I had this idea that maybe she was trying to, maybe there was like, I didn't want to do dragons because it's been done before, right? And I was like, well, maybe griffins.
Okay.
Maybe they can be like the species that's like almost extinct in this world and they're trying to come back, but there's like a power, like there's a good spiritual power in the griffin.
Cool. So is it like
Or
she finds an egg and then has all these adventures?
yeah, and then I realized like maybe I want to incorporate the other races. So there's elves, dwarves, and one race of sentient animals, and they're kind of like the animals who can talk in Narnia.
Nice.
Like not all the animals, but like a few of them were chosen to be like almost human.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the unicorns are part of that race of sentient animals. And
Cool.
there are a few other ones, but then the enemy made like a counterfeit of it, and he made his animal army as well. So they're like evil.
Kind of like maybe the orcs or
Kind of
the
like the orcs, yeah, but like they can be any animal. Or
okay.
like a combination of like a chimera kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun. And it's a trilogy. Is it intended for who's the audience? Is it for adults or young adults or what?
Adults and young adults, fantasy lovers, anyone who wants to read a Christian fantasy. I think it's like very sort of classic, it's good storytelling.
Okay. And
I think similar to like maybe Aragon.
yeah.
Yeah,
I read Aragon back in the day. I enjoyed it a lot when I was younger.
yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Is it and it's a trilogy and it's all complete now. They're all the books are
It's
all
not complete. The first book is finished.
okay. What's the first one?
The second book is rough drafted.
Okay. What's the first one called?
It's called Orphan and Sorcerer.
Orphan and Sorcerer. That's right. That's right. Okay. So Orphan and Sorcerer is the one that's out now. When
Yeah.
did you put that one out?
I put it out last August,
Okay.
in ebook form. It was done before that, but it had a cover issue. So
You mentioned
yeah,
that. Yeah. You
yeah,
were telling me you were telling me you were making some updates to the ebook version on Amazon and stuff like that.
yeah. I wanted to make it really available to all my readers and audience who wanted to check it out in either form. Like I didn't want it the ebook form to limit anybody who wanted to read it. I know a lot of people that I know really only want to read like hard copies, like have
Yeah.
the book in their hand and read it. So I thought, well, I don't want to limit that. Like I want to have that available, but I'm not. I'm learning to be more of a graphic designer through this whole process.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. Writers wear a lot of hats these days. I mean, I also know only basic graphic design, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool that you can do that. I know there's yeah, ebooks are all the rage, but I personally, for the most part, I make exceptions sometimes, but for the most part, I prefer to read in hard copy, and a lot of us diehard readers do that too.
Yeah, I do too. It's just,
Yeah,
I grew up with it. It's comforting,
sure,
the whole book.
sure. Hey, Era, your audio is a little fuzzy. I mean, I can hear you, but some of it sounds blurry. I don't know if there's anything that you could do on your end to work on the audio. Um, yeah,
Okay.
I'm not a tech guy, sorry. So I don't have suggestions. Just wondering if we can get better audio quality for the people at home. But I can hear most of what you're saying. It's just
It could be this computer. It's
okay. It's just some of it was like fuzzy or echoey, but that's okay. I can hear most of it now. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, like it did. It could be the technology or the distance.
yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, already. Yeah, you're in Canada. I'm in Texas. Um,
Yeah, that's
so
pretty far.
I mean, it's amazing that we're even having this conversation compared to
Yeah.
10 years ago, but still, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, this was Star Trek, right? In the 90s.
Basically, yeah, I mean, we're living in yesterday's sci-fi already.
Yeah.
That's yeah, we're blessed to be here. So you touched on this already, but I wanted to ask you, how did you get interested in writing fantasy? Like, who were the biggest influences on you? Who were your favorite authors? You mentioned a few of them already. What made you want to write something like this?
Yeah, I grew up reading C.S. Lewis, like the Narnia books, and
The classic.
then yeah, the classics, and then Lord of the Rings movie came out
Mhm.
sort of as I was graduating and coming into the world as a young adult, and
Well, my Green Dragon short to everyone, but yeah,
and it was like, wow, this is exactly the type of story that I've been wanting to write forever.
you've been waiting for it.
Yeah, and I someone had given me a copy of the Lord of the Rings trilogy when I went away to YWAM, but then kind of got lost and put in the lost and found, and I never actually read it before I saw the movies.
Okay.
So then I read it as I was writing this book. So a lot of the sort of world building aspects are similar. Like I just always wish that there were more books in that series.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've read a lot of the ones that Christopher Tolkien has posthumously
Okay.
published. So I've read a lot of the lore of the world, and some of that lore is very similar to my world.
Cool. Okay.
It could even be the same world, but it's
Yeah.
very different people and
Yeah.
characters happening.
So you basically, yeah. So you discovered these, and you were like, "This is the kind of stuff I've always wanted to write," and you kind of
Yeah,
just from there. Okay.
yeah. I went from there, and I just kept on building and building and made it my own in different ways.
Yeah.
With
We,
the
you know, we
Griffin.
we all stand on the shoulders of giants. I mean,
Yeah,
I honestly, when I've interviewed authors and asked them who their favorites are and who their influences are, when it's fantasy, people always say pretty much always say either Tolkien or Lewis. I mean, or both. Those names are
yeah,
always out there. I mean, Tolkien basically invented modern fantasy as we know it, and I
pretty
feel
much.
I feel like everyone who's come since then is a I shouldn't say derivative, but it has been influenced by him.
Yeah, for sure.
I
I
mean,
mean, I have
whether you want to or not.
yeah, like I have a few other sort of moderns, and I feel like Mercedes Lackey is very like
I know the
Bakelite
name. Okay.
as well. Like
No, yeah.
she's kind of gone off on like the sort of a more left wing like morality stuff, right?
Right,
Like,
right. But
but
still, I guess.
it's still very very Christian based. I feel
Okay.
when I read her fantasy stuff.
Mhm.
So I've read a lot of well, I think a fair amount of Mercedes Lackey, and I found another author who's kind of obscure, but she's just so good at writing poetic little metaphors and like embedding them into her text.
What's her
It's like
name?
it's almost like I have to go back. Her name is Patricia McKillop.
Okay, I don't think I know her.
No, it's like it's almost like reading poetry, but like you got to go back and okay, what did she mean by that? You know?
Okay. Yeah, my wife is more well read in fantasy than I am. I know I've heard the name Mercedes Lackey. I don't think I've heard the second one.
And Sharon Shin is the other one that I read a lot of.
Okay, good. Yeah, so you have some. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously you have the big names, Tolkien and Lewis, but I'm I'm,
Yeah,
I'm glad you read around in the genre too, and you read some other women writers since you wanted to make a female protagonist. So I'm glad there's more of those voices. I mean,
yeah,
if not, I mean, I was going to say coming up, but I mean, they have come, and I mean, and they're here, And
Yeah, for sure.
that's cool.
I guess for me growing up in a small town, I read a lot of the classics with the, the male protagonists, like,
Right.
the Billy and Blaze books when it comes to the horse things. And
Mhm.
I was like, well, why can't a girl have adventures like that too? Right?
Right. Yeah. Other than, I mean, I guess Narnia, which is kind of an ensemble cast. I mean, you got Lucy,
Yeah.
but yeah. So
I
I
guess
mean,
I felt limited as just because of my gender growing up, and I felt
sure,
like, well, girls can do this kick butt stuff too, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah, good stuff. Is your character? I mean, I don't need like plot detail or like spoilers or anything, but like the girl in your story, in Griffin's Egg, is she like a young girl, teenager, or young adult, or like, and she becomes a warrior, or is
she's
she?
kind of around 16, and she's sort of like she's really lonely. Like she's very alone in her world, and she's been isolated by this man who sort of looks after her, but he basically ignores her. He was the advisor to the old king, but ended up getting the king and queen killed so he could take over. And that's sort of, if I wrote a prequel, it would be that story of how that all happened.
Okay, one day.
Um, yeah, one day, yeah. It had a prologue when I first started the book, and then I thought, you know what, no, that's just too confusing and distracting. I don't like it. Let's just start at the beginning of her story, and then once I'm done the trilogy, maybe I'll go back and write a prequel.
I've had to cut a lot of flashbacks out of my book, so I get that a lot of backstory there.
Yeah,
I'm dealing with superheroes, and I was trying to tell all the other origin stories, and I was like, let's just tell the main story. Had to do
tell the
that.
main story, and then not confuse people in the beginning. Once you've got them hooked into your world, then maybe, yeah,
Yeah,
they'd be interested.
I've learned that. I might even need to cut out more, but I think I've learned that by now.
Yeah,
Yeah. And did
yeah.
you say you mentioned this earlier, but I wasn't sure if you were talking about the Griffin's Egg or the Hidden Valley. Did you write one of these when you were really young, like, or have the idea for one of these when you were really young?
Yeah, the Hidden Valley stories, because I was like a horse girl. I was obsessed with
Yeah.
horses, horse crazy. And
Okay.
I did a few years of lessons, and then I got my own horse, and I thought it would be neat to have some, ranch kid characters going on
Sure.
like a wilderness adventure and then discovering this hidden valley.
Okay.
And what would they find in the valley? I wasn't sure, but
Yeah.
it was just this sort of like beautiful idea.
Yeah. But then when did you start working on Griffin's Egg, or what did you have that idea?
Um, I really started it, I think probably my grade 12 year. Like I had the characters in my head. I had Shayana and her two animal companions, like the snow leopard and the unicorn. But I didn't know what to do with them, and I had tried a couple of times unsuccessfully to get through a fantasy novel, and I had kind of shared it with the wrong people at the wrong times, and they gave me sort of like the type of feedback that didn't help me get through it, and I ended up abandoning those projects.
Okay.
So I knew this one had to be really good, and I had to wait until I was really happy with it in
Yeah.
order to share it with anyone. So yeah, probably my grade 12 year, and I worked on it for probably 22, 23 years.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, this is
um,
you've been sitting on this for a while.
I've been doing that for a long time, and I've
Uh,
become such a better writer during that time that I've had to go back and take out parts that I didn't feel were good enough.
Sure.
And other parts stayed the same. So I have some parts of the novel that I wrote like 20 years ago, and some that I wrote like 2 years ago.
I get it. No, mine's not quite 20 years, but I wrote my first draft in 2010 to 11, so like 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah,
Or I can't do math. Yeah, 12, 13 years ago.
yeah,
And now I read the original draft, and I read passages that are still there, and I'm like, and I kind of cringe because I'm like, I think I've gotten much better as a writer since then, but
yeah. And
um
there's like my ex is like, because I was married and he would read all the drafts and he's like, it's a completely different story than it used to be. Like it's good, but it's not the same story.
yeah, that's really cool how that changes over time.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, if once you become rich and famous, maybe one of your kids, like Christopher Tolkien, will compile all your writings together and show and publish the different versions, the different iterations at different times. Yeah.
yeah. I have lots of different, and there are even characters in the second book that didn't actually make it into the first book. The second book was the first book, and then I realized I needed a first book.
Yeah, okay,
So, maybe it'll end up being just the first book and a sequel. I don't know. I think it probably needs a full third book to like bring the conclusion and deal with the raising of the baby Griffins and stuff. But
okay,
yeah, yeah, I didn't even get to the egg in the first book, just sort of like the concept of it and
okay,
what they're fighting for more. And the second book probably has more action in it.
sure, okay,
The first book has a lot of action too. It's just, it's, I had some feedback and my friend was like, well, this is kind of like just a lot of background about her. It was very sweet and um, a lot younger feeling than the young adults today. Like maybe young adult books when I was younger were like that. But she
mhm,
said they need to know she's in danger right away. Like, so what are you gonna do about it? And so I rewrote the whole thing.
yeah, I've read some, I mean, even like, I beta read for someone, and it was kind of like that, and I was like, this
Yeah,
story needs a crisis right away, there isn't,
yeah.
so I get it,
So I've been working on the crisis and like what exactly is the burden of the story and I went with very dark ages theme, like there's
okay,
human sacrifice and
wow, yeah,
um
cool,
yeah, so it's very clear right away that she's in danger and she needs to get away from the people that she's around and that they've been toxic for her and she's been isolated. um
okay. Well, it sounds like, I mean, it's the culmination of years of work, decades even.
yeah,
How does it feel to have finally gotten it off your chest, or at least the first book, to have finally got out this idea that
it
you,
feels amazing, it feels really good, but it was like I shopped it around for 9 or 10 different publishers when
sure,
I thought I had finished it. Obviously I it's been through another rewrite since then. But they all kind of said, well, you've obviously put a lot of work into it. It's a good book, but we're not interested right now.
mhm,
And I didn't know why, but then I took an old English class, and the professor, one of the first classes, he stood up and said, I know that it's not politically correct to be championing, like white blonde people right now, and the fact that they love war and all this stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? Because this is a Christian fantasy
yeah,
story, and there's like this race of like warrior Highland Vikings, and yeah, like the king is blonde, and I'm like, oh, that's why, because people are using that, I guess, in the political arena. People are using that
mhm,
as one of their racist sort of like eschatology, and I just like I didn't realize that, and the timing's all wrong, right?
yeah. I know the publishing game is tough. I mean, I've been trying to get on. I mean, I've only been sending out queer letters for a little bit, well, since like May, so a few months. But yeah, it's tough. And I mean, there could be
It's
any
getting
number of,
tougher.
yeah. And I mean, yeah, with so much content out there, it's probably getting tougher. And there could be any number of reasons why it's
Well, I know
not.
here in BC, there were a couple of publishers that went down in the last few years. So publishers are making less money, and they want to be more careful with the choices they are making,
Hmm.
because if they make one or two bad choices in this economy, they could be done.
Yeah,
Um,
I get it. They have a business to run too, and
yeah,
they're not obligated to, publish your book, even if you've worked hard on it for years.
and I
That's
felt like the first couple chapters were a lot younger, and from her perspective as this young woman, and she hadn't gone through the growth yet. And the more modern um, ideas that I put into it, and the other characters that reflected different parts of, because she's very much me as a
mhm,
young woman, other characters that had reflected different parts of my personality and more the things I've learned as I've grown. And there's actually a male character too that they were put in later parts of the book. So I thought, well, maybe if they could see those characters more upfront, maybe they would have said yes. But it's I don't know. I think there's a purpose in everything, and maybe I needed to rewrite it one more time and sit with it. And I'm still feeling like maybe there's a purpose in being held back in having that hard copy release, and maybe there's a right time for it to be released.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I
Is
think I'll find the right fit if and when I do.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that. Sorry, so I know the ebook is up. Is the hard copy not out yet?
It's still in the process of review with the Kindle people.
Okay,
What happens is I approve it and then they have to approve it.
okay.
So we've
Yeah.
been going through this all week. Like I approve it and then they sent me back the issues they
Yeah.
had, and then I fixed those issues and I sent it back.
You were talking about some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I sent it back to them yesterday after I spent couple hours on the cover and a couple hours on the manuscript getting fixing issues.
Cool. But okay, but it should be available soon, I guess.
Yeah, because the formatting program that I used has changed. Pressbooks has changed to 100% paid subscription.
Okay.
I didn't want to do that because I'm not publishing like a book every 6 months.
Right. No, it's
So,
not there yet. Yeah, I
no.
know. I mean, and I've wrestled with this too, with because I've again I'm on the journey myself, trying to publish and having edited my stuff, and I'm like, there is a point where you can take criticism, take constructive criticism, and maybe there are things you can do to make your book more marketable. There probably are for all of us, but at the same time, if you take every suggestion and like try to follow every trend, and if you just keep editing it and all that and really down, like it's not your book anymore. It's not your story anymore.
Exactly.
So it's like
Yeah.
you gotta do what's best for you and for your story and your vision and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I think like my progress has been slowed by going back to university for sure. And the fact that I realized that a lot of my later ideas, like I have 3 or 4 other books that I'm working on simultaneously,
Okay,
they're more like modern and marketable.
cool.
Partly because they're a lot darker and they deal with I don't know, I guess like there's one that's sort of like a satire, a Christian satire, but it's like vampires.
I can get behind that.
The metaphor is like vampires. It's like the sort of the title or working title, True Origins of Earth's Vampires.
I
So
like
it's
it.
actually another planet. They came from another planet, and the planet is like unfallen creation. And so they have this garden where it's this tree that they drink the sap from the tree, and it gives them spiritual life and power. And so that those are the unfallen vampires. And then on Earth, because the Earth is cursed, they created accidentally this race of vampires, and then they left because they couldn't redeem it. So it's like a mission trip. So they're taking a spaceship back to Earth.
Funny. That sounds a little bit like Paralandra, also C.S. Lewis.
I read that one.
The space trilogy. Is that one out yet, or is it just one you?
No, that one isn't even written yet. So I have a couple other secular market ones. One is post-apocalyptic sci-fi that I've also been. The characters were sort of with me sort of last couple of years of high school, and I was struggling to fit them into a world and find a conflict that would work for those characters.
Okay.
I knew it would be sort of post-apocalyptic and very imaginative, and this world is like I think post World War III.
Cool. Okay.
So like
Yeah.
and people have been doing DNA experimentation, so there are a few different races or types of people in this world, and it's a love story, but it's also a war story, and there's
more.
Yes, but like my main character Ethan, he was kind of based on a cross between like Indiana Jones and Ethan Hunt in the Impossible movies.
Okay. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it is really a lot of fun.
It sounds like you're full of ideas, and I mean you're putting in the work to make them happen. I mean I know obviously that takes time and takes effort, and
Yeah.
Some of these ideas you've had for years and haven't gotten to yet. I'm in the same boat, but you're doing the work, and I mean either living the dream or at least on the way. So that's
Yeah,
great.
I hope so. I mean, there's times when I get discouraged because because university is just so much work, and I can't write for months at a time sometimes.
You said you teach right now? That's right. You're telling me about that.
No, I have kids. I have kids, and they both have ADHD.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask. That was actually one of my next questions. I've asked people well, whenever I ask people what the biggest challenge is in about writing, they usually say just finding some time management. So I know you mentioned you started writing when your kids were toddlers. I guess they're not toddlers anymore.
No, they're not. And what I used to do with my daughter when my son was in the earlier grades is I would take her to drop-in daycare. or
Mhm.
what they call play care.
Yeah.
And so you drop them off at the community center for a couple of hours, and then I go for a workout for half an hour, and then I write for an hour and a half, and then I
Yeah.
pick her up. That worked.
When they were younger,
When they were younger, yeah.
and are they like what, older kids or teenagers now? Or-
Yeah, my son is turning 15 and my daughter's turning 11.
Yeah. Okay. And
So yeah, it's 6 hours when they're in school is not as much time as it seems.
sure. Yeah.
And
And
because
I
of
mean,
the economy and everything, I've needed to start working a little bit, and then I need to go back to university after my ex and I split up. So it's been tough. It's been really tough.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you're yeah, and it's not like those 6 hours when they're there is like all your free time. It's like you
Yeah.
gotta, yeah. I mean, first of all, yeah. I mean, even if you weren't working, you got like, there's groceries and laundry and all that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, managing the household and then planning for when they are here because their ADHD makes it harder for them to be sort of mentally independent.
Hmm.
So it takes a mental toll, right? Like you have to sort of break everything down to something that they can manage.
Yeah, sure.
That definitely takes time and effort. I
Hmm.
think they say that kids with ADHD are 2 to 4 years younger mentally and emotionally than,
Wow.
yeah,
So that does take extra effort for you. So yeah,
yeah,
you're a busy mom. You're raising two kids with special needs. You're working. I don't know if you said it was full time or part time at the university, but still.
I'm in university 3/4 time, and then once in a while, I started working in the film industry as a background extra
Cool.
a few years ago because you can make a lot of money in like 1 or 2 days.
That's awesome. But yeah,
Yeah,
have you been in any cool films?
yeah. I was in Sandra Bullock one, but they cut out my little cameo.
Oh,
The Sandra Bullock one, it's called The Unforgiven or Unforgivable,
okay.
the one where she takes the blame for murder for a
Wow,
young child.
that's cool.
I've been on set with, yeah, Sandra Bullock's probably the biggest celebrity. Also, James Franco.
Huh, okay, nice.
So actually, James Franco's younger brother, Dave Franco, he was, I think that the show kind of tanked, but it was called The Now, and he was like the main character. And it was supposedly what's it called, like a depressing comedy, like a black comedy or something.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, I was on set with him. I was in Julie and the Phantoms was my very first one, and it's on Netflix right now.
Oh, okay.
In the ballroom scenes where
That's your little claim to fame. Well,
yeah, for
other than being
sure.
an author. Yeah.
The last summer I did Godzilla, but I'm pretty sure it was like the Japanese version of Godzilla,
Okay.
and it was filmed in Vancouver.
Did you get to like get squished or eaten or anything by the No.
No, we were in like sort of like an army camp, sort of like what do you call it, refugee camp after he destroyed our home. Yeah.
Right. So you're doing all that, and you're working and raising kids, and you're still publishing a book or more than one book. How do you do it all?
Uh, I think like I need to when I get overwhelmed, I need to just like go into a really low stimulation environment. So I'll like turn off the lights and like just clear my cache, like just clear everything.
Yeah.
And I'll listen to like some very peaceful music. I really like Hildegard von Bingen.
Okay.
She was like this nun in the 12th century or in the first century, 1000 to 1200 BC. She lived and wrote during that period of time.
Yeah.
1100. She
Okay.
was a nun, a German nun, an orphan, and she like was this polymath, and she made incredible advances in medicine, science, music. She had all these visions that she felt were from God, and the Pope even let her speak in church, and she was like the first woman ever to like give a sermon.
Okay.
It was pretty crazy, but yeah, her music has been. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it like being redone or whatever. There's some recordings, and I find it like it's like medieval polyphony. So it's like one voice doing the melody, and then several other voices doing like other like contrapuntal melodies.
Cool. Okay. So just relaxing music and stuff like that, and you
Relaxing music.
focus. Yeah.
Yeah, taking time to read. I find like watching TV is super high stim and it like overstimulates my nervous system because it's so conflict based. So like reading is often better.
And I mean, as a writer, you got to keep up with what's out there,
Yeah,
you
more
know,
than like what's out there, I want to be like true to what's inside of me. Like I find that like if I try to worry about what's out there, I'm trying too much, trying too hard at it.
that's true. There's a balance.
Yeah,
Obviously, you don't have to read anything or everything. You probably want to stick with the things that are somewhat in your genre and your area of interest, because that's what you're writing too.
I have to. Like that's the only way. Yeah, I can't read a lot of different things. I'm very picky about what I read. Even if someone was like, "This is a great book," but it's not like it doesn't spark that interest for me, then I don't.
Yeah, no, I have to be picky. I'm trying to read more than I used to, but I mean, time is money, time is
Yeah,
resource, and I just with being with also yeah, working and having a kid now, I read much more slowly than I did in high school or whatever. So I have
yeah,
to, I have to pick and choose my books carefully, because
exactly.
I'd love to read them all. I can't spend time on all of them.
Like Julia Cameron says, like I want to put into the well what I want to bring out of it. So like, yeah, um, basically, yeah. If it's not something that I feel like I just want to soak up like a sponge. Like if it doesn't excite me or interest me in some way, like I won't even pick it up.
Sure. You, and that's how a lot of our readers are there too. Sad to say, but like that's why they say you have to hook them in like the first little bit, or
Yeah,
because lots of reasons, but our attention spans are so short, and there's so much content competing for our affections. So yeah.
yeah, and it's like audio visual contact just really grabs us. I feel like that's less and less people read than they used to
Yep.
in this upcoming generation. It's just surprising to me, but it's just like reading is seen as like work.
Yeah. I'm trying to market mostly to readers and writers, other writers. There always is a group of readers, but it's just we're more niche and such than we used to, or
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who desire to read but don't make the time for it, or don't make it a priority, because it is
yeah.
work. You're right.
They're like, oh, well, that would be too much work to read your book. And I'm like, well, how do you know you wouldn't actually like it? You know, like family members, it's just like they don't actually say it, but like you can tell by their attitude that like
I get it.
they
Yeah,
think that you're asking them to do work, and it's like, okay, whatever.
I enjoy it, but it's difficult, or it's more difficult than it used to be. Yeah.
I
Um,
guess like they don't really see the value of fiction because they don't really assume that they would actually learn anything that would be
no,
useful for their Christian walk from it. Like with the Christian, yeah, because they just see it as like fluff or whatever. But like I
and
definitely try to put in things that I've learned from my journey into this Griffin series.
Mhm. There are people out there who don't see the value of fiction, but ask those same people if they'll watch a TV show for an hour or a movie, and a lot of them say yes. So it's not
Yeah,
always, it's just books are a time commitment. I get it. I get
yeah,
it.
they are.
Yeah. No, I see your point. Okay. That's a struggle, and we're all. Most of my guests on here have been also up and coming authors. I've had a few people on here who have had more success as authors so far, but we're all on that journey together, kind of, and in the same boat. So I get it. What about when it comes to like the craft of writing, not just the challenge of finding time, but like actually sitting down and the writing and editing process and making it all work together? What's a big challenge for you, or something you've had to overcome
Um,
in that area?
well, I was really blocked for a long time, from about 11 to 21.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, that is a long time.
Without giving too much detail, my parents just viewed it as like getting in the way of my academics, which it never would have. It would have made me a more well-rounded person, but they literally tried to get me to block, and I did because I'm a really sensitive person. But like when you're around people who are basically smothering you and not allowing you to be yourself, then the authenticity of what you're trying to write doesn't come out. So I've found the artist way to be. I felt like the Holy Spirit led me to it after I did YWAM, and I was like not happy in my university program early in my life, and like what was I missing? And I felt like I wanted and needed to move more into, well, back into the creativity and two major areas that I did a lot of when I was a child. that was like visual arts, but also creative writing and
Yeah,
fiction.
we need that outlet.
Yeah, so create Julia Cameron in the artist way. Like she basically takes you along the journey. She takes you by the hand and leads you step by step from completely blocked and like totally unaware of your emotional self and inner self to like free creatively and pursuing your dreams by the end of the book, ideally.
Cool.
Um,
Is the author and title? Can you tell us again?
Julia Cameron, and it's called The Artist's Way.
The artist.
The Artist's Way, yeah. I think she's
Good.
was raised Catholic, and then she kind of went into sort of a more atheistic time period in her life. She became an alcoholic, and then she realized like this isn't working.
But
I
she's also
need.
seen some of that, but she's also been on a journey, it sounds like.
She's been on a journey, yeah. So it's a 12-step program to recover your creativity,
Okay. Yeah.
and it includes like a spiritual element. And I guess like back when it came out in the 80s, the church was like, no, that's just all new age. It's not all new age. Like some
Yeah.
of it, yes, could be interpreted that way if that's the way you choose to engage with it.
Yeah. But no,
Or you could say, well, God is like the God that I know, and that's how I'm gonna choose to interact with him.
a lot of,
So,
yeah. But
so yeah, like realizing that. Sorry,
it's okay.
someone's calling me. Realizing that creativity is part of our DNA as human beings, and that the Creator created us to create.
Yeah. I agree.
So that's I think was my biggest challenge. And then with university, I tend to get blocked because it's just so much information.
Yeah.
I've actually recently been diagnosed with high functioning autism, so that makes sense too. It's just overstimulated, right? And then you can't do anything because it's like I'm paralyzed by that.
So it's not only finding the time, it's about like creating the right mental space in your mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean,
And that takes having not only having the time, but like having the control of my environment and
yes, yeah, which is
my
also
workload.
kids and stuff like that. No, I've yeah, I mean, there are times, and my writing time is usually after my kid goes to bed, because that's what we got. I mean, there are times I get to the end of the day and I'm exhausted, and then it's like 9 o'clock and I'm like, I need to write, I need to work on this, but I just don't.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's some of what kind of why my editing my last book took. I mean, that's part of why it took longer than I wanted, because I was dragging my feet on it.
Yeah,
But,
and editing your own book is hard. It's like doing surgery on yourself.
thank you. Yeah, it is hard. I like that analogy. I hadn't heard that before, but no, it's
like it like literally makes your stomach turn, because it's like literally like doing surgery on yourself. Like if I had to, like, even picking at a sliver, you get like that little feeling in your stomach, like
you're like,
you know, like it's looking at yourself and like, okay, what's wrong with? Yeah, it's hard.
I had to honestly was like, I was editing, well, also my draft that began like 10 years ago or more, and I was like, I'm tired of this one, and I've been working on it for a long time. I kind of want to move on to new things, but I still had it in good shape. So I just, yeah, so I get it. There's a lot to overcome in your personal, this mental state and everything. So props to you for putting in the work, and again, you're still on the journey like all of us, but it sounds like you're putting in the work to make it happen, and that is no small thing. I mean, I might be preaching to the choir here with our audience, with an audience of fellow readers and writers, but most of us realize it's no small thing to do that work and achieve your dreams and stuff. So yeah, you're doing great.
Well, I hope to achieve my dreams. My dream now that I've self-published is to get a traditional publisher for one of my books, and then hopefully that will lead to more books being published, because I've sort of like done a little bit of a sampling of many different genres, like junior fiction first, and then young adult fiction fantasy, and then the sort of more secular market, more new adult sci-fi, and then I've got like the Christian satire vampire one that eventually will come out, and also like a historical romance. So I've like tried, and then I've also done a few short stories, one that I self-published, one that was published in the Levitate magazine, which was like a Chicago High School of the Arts magazine a few years ago, and I've had some poetry published. So like I've kind of done a little bit of everything, but my desire for the longest time has been to have a traditional publisher and have some sales that way, because I don't know anything about marketing. I started this journey, I think, in 2016 when I first published my first book, knowing nothing about that. So I learned about first I learned about, the creative process and unblocking myself and getting the manuscript edited and working with others on editing it,
Yeah.
learning how to deal with constructive feedback and not getting too hurt by that. And then and then you learn the whole publishing process, and then you realize that you haven't marketed your book at all. So
I've been listening to like some marketing podcasts, and I've learned a little bit, but I'm not an expert by any means. So
yeah.
it's hard. I saw a meme just this morning on Instagram. I forget what all it said, but it was like, so like, wait, authors are expected to like write their books, edit their books, market their books, create a website, be good at graphic design, publish their books, and build an audience and all this stuff, while also writing new books. And then the next response was also the crying, so much crying.
Yeah, well, working a full-time job and having a family and not making any money from it for possibly 10 or 20 years.
Yes, that's the life. It's not easy. It's not for everyone, and there's no promise of success. I know the dream for a lot of us is like become a bestseller. I'm also aiming. I also want to do traditional publishing, and I'm trying for that. But there's no guarantee for anyone. But there's a lot of perseverance there. I think that's admirable.
And I think like even if this series doesn't become the next hit because it's not politically correct, or it's sort of like out of favor right now, because even a lot of the secular TV shows after Lord of the Rings, they went through this huge like fantasy and medieval sort of fad in the TV shows, and now then everything sort of went back to sci-fi for a while. It's still sort of in that sci-fi moment, but I feel like fantasy is going to come back eventually, and we're going to have a revival of that, and maybe even more people coming back to the church, and hopefully fantasy will take off again.
Yeah, I think, it isn't fun, but there's always a market. Whatever you think about Rings of Power, people are doing TV shows and fantasy. Wheel of Time is a big one because the show of that has come out.
I feel like that fantasy is starting to come back, but it's like sort of a slow burn right now.
Yeah. Well, hey, your time is coming. I hope and pray. So
I hope so too, and like maybe some more of these, because I wanted to do them in order, publish them in the order that I wrote them, but I realized that may like be a pipe dream. I may need to like get famous for something that I wrote like more recently because it's more upmarket, and then that will lead to more sales with my old book.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. So keep doing it. It takes perseverance and diligence. And being a writer is playing the long game. I talked about that with other guests and with my other writing friends, and it's just a lot. But I applaud you for doing the work. So
well, thank you. Yeah, I feel like I finally found my tribe when I've been able to reconnect with authors.
Awesome. Yeah, we need that. Yeah. You told us about a lot of your challenges and the challenges that a lot of writers face. What do you think is the strength of the high point of your books? What's the thing, or maybe hopefully more than one thing, but what's one thing that you're writing in Griffin's Egg does really well?
I think like in the desert of not knowing what to write in the middle of a novel, I feel like I learned some principles about what all authors do, and maybe even TV show writers do, and so we start out with a question or something that we're interested in, and then we sort of dive deeper into it, and if we don't ever get to that deeper or to that like deepest place where we have the answers, then we can't give those answers to our audience.
Sure.
And so I think that's one reason why this book took so long to write, because I didn't have the answers. I knew she was running away from something, and I knew what she was running away from, but I didn't know like what her struggles would look like after she initially ran away, or what her victory would look like. And so living that out in my own life kind of made it easier for me to visualize. So I think like there's a lot of spiritual there's like a lot of wisdom that I learned on my journey that I sort of put into her journey. I do think that like the spiritual experiences and like the glory of those things definitely went into like her spiritual experiences and her like learning to steward her spiritual gifts. So
Okay.
that it's more, yeah, it's very like linked to my own spiritual journey and like the victories that I've seen. And so I think that people will get a lot from it without realizing that they're learning anything. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It was a journey of discovery for you too, and you've put in some of that
Yeah,
human element that we need. Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, obviously, I'm not the first one to observe this, but we connect to characters, strong characters who resonate with us and who come from a place maybe of human struggle and whatever that might look like at different times or different
yeah,
characters. So yeah,
yeah. I feel like her story is my story in some ways. So I couldn't write her story until I had lived certain parts of my
yeah,
story.
that's good. And she's, that's someone makes her someone the reader can resonate with because she's come out of a real place of struggle.
Yeah, and I feel like every sort of a longer, not a short story, but like a longer story, so like novel project or like a TV series, like there's sort of like this mysterious element in the beginning that we want to dive deeper into, and the author actually kind of has to know where they're going. Because with the TV series, they don't have the answers and they don't know where they're going, and they just sort of string you along all season. It's just, those are the ones that kind of die, I think, and
Yeah,
that's partly why some of my novels died. I think like because I
or
wasn't sure where I was going with them.
in, in some TV series, the authors finished the original plan, and the studio was like, we still want more, and so they keep making stuff up. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel like there's a promise in the beginning, and if you can't keep that promise by like answering those things or going taking the audience to that deeper place,
right,
then like then your novel's not gonna work out. It's not gonna feel authentic and real, and that's just something I learned along the way. I didn't know it going in, but I feel like now if I have an idea of that deeper place, I don't know need to know exactly what happens, but like conceptually, I'm like, okay, I know where I'm gonna take everybody. Like the beginning of a book is kind of like a light come deeper. Um and if you haven't gone to that deeper, you're gonna have to discover it before you can write it for everyone else to experience. And then they can have a satisfying sort of experience of reading
yeah,
your book
and
and
I mean,
taking the journey with you.
yeah, and your story may help someone else, and I mean, you know, I read a quote recently. I've heard this before. I'm actually reading a book called "Reading Like a Writer" about like kind of just for like good books that writers should read to inspire them and kind of, or not just inspire them, but help them with their craft. And someone, I can't remember who said this, but the quote was the particular, or no, the universal lives in the particular, or the universal comes in the particular, or something like that,
Something
which
like that.
which means it's like, it's only when you share your story and share your character's journey, which is also, you said, part of your journey, that people are like, I understand this, like this resonates with me, this is part of me too. And
Yeah.
that beautiful thing that stories do, that our favorite stories have captured us in that way, and we want to be able to do that for someone else on some level.
Yeah, and I hope I expressed it as best as I can. It's just because every story is so different, so this is just sort of a generalization. But yeah, like with my Christian satire, I kind of want to talk about some of the things that like spiritual hungers and how like our culture experiences them and how like secular people satisfy their spiritual hungers in a certain way and how like Christians do and how like sometimes like the communication between those things kind of gets messed up and like mission trips and like all the things that can happen and use that book a little bit to talk about the church and maybe what we could do better, but also have a fun time and an adventure and some action along the way.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, I want to read that one when it comes out. It sounds interesting to me.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I had on our list, or on my list of questions, and we're winding down to our time. I mean, we got started a little late, but I don't want to take up all your time. I originally was going to ask you about, so publishing and marketing, of course, you talked a good bit about your publishing journey and kind of what led you there. What have you done for marketing? Like have you done anything for trying to build your audience or getting your book out there? Like how has that gone for you so far?
I really haven't had a lot of extra time and energy for that, but I'm learning slowly. I'm sort of trying to become a copywriter in as a job. So I'm learning about marketing and a little bit of the internships that I'm doing and learning about target audience. And I've also looked into doing coaching. I was like,
Okay,
I'm doing coaching. So I've
cool.
I've gleaned some materials from the coaching things that I've read about, I also read this book by, I can't remember. It's a guy that he says, well, if you want to do like to have a glow up, what's the best thing for you to do to teach people to do? And so it's like, niching down your target audience. And I think he said something like seven different niches. Like, so, Christian, fantasy, sword and sorcery, and then like to have 7 different describers is like the best way to make the most money. So I thought,
Interesting.
wow, that's like 7 different specific
Yeah,
like niche downs.
I can see some people saying that that'd be too complicated, but on the other hand,
Yeah,
like again, there's so much out there already that you have to find a way to, what's the word, to differentiate yourself, because
yeah,
if you just look at Christian fantasy, well, there's a whole genre already. So yours is a Christian fantasy that has X, that has the girl, or has,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, sword and sorcery, female protagonist. I mean, everybody's done free female protagonists now. A lot of people have, but for me, it just felt very like what I needed to do at the time, and maybe it was an escape because I felt helpless in my family growing up, and I needed to feel powerful. I don't know, but maybe it's the message that girls still need to know that they can overcome their circumstances and rise above it.
absolutely. And I mean, that's the story. Not saying you're the first one who's ever done that, but the story you need to hear and people still need to hear, and a message.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, so other things for marketing, like obviously this interview, there's a blog called The Wood Between the Worlds.
Okay, like from Narnia, of course.
It's a reference to that, yeah, to that came from Narnia, and I found it when I was creating my website.
Yeah, I might have heard of that one, or I forget. Is it a
I
Facebook?
don't think she's a Christian, which is weird because I thought she was, but she read my book and she's a young adult, young university student, probably 20s, and she read the junior fiction book and said that it didn't have enough action. And I'm like, okay, it's junior fiction. And yeah, all the criticisms were like, because it's junior fiction and because it's not really secular market junior fiction as it is like modern today. And then I looked down her blog and like she gave my book a 3 out of 5, but
Hmm,
all her criticisms were basically the junior fiction elements that I had in it, which all my books don't share that level of like I very much sheltered. Like there wasn't very much action in it or very much romance,
right.
because it's junior fiction and for 9 to 12-year-olds, you're not gonna put like heavy romance in something like that.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta find the right audience. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't
Well,
really
second
too
tier.
happy with her because she couldn't really get out of herself enough to realize what was the genre and what was her just not liking it. So I did that. I made a website, but then I realized that no one's going to go to the website if they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
So
That's why I don't know. Social. I mean, I'm trying. Social media and
yeah,
all that stuff.
then I joined Realm Makers, and that's
That's
been fun.
that's
But
why.
it's not really a place to market your books unless you go to the conference, I think.
Yeah, I almost went to the conference this year, and then I wasn't able to make it. Maybe next year. Well, and again, my book isn't. I haven't published yet because I'm still submitting to publishers. So I was
Yeah. So like, yeah,
kind of
maybe
debating.
I finish a couple more books, and then I've got like a choice, and I can like just like show them all and say, hey, you want
That'd
which
be
one do
fun.
you want to publish?
Yeah, I was kind of debating whether it's better to go before you publish, so you can like network and meet people, or
Yeah.
the word so you can sell. But hopefully one year I gotta go. Maybe next year. I don't know.
So I know networking is good, and I have a few authors from Realm Makers on my Facebook, and we like
Yeah,
each other's posts and stuff. I've been thinking, Someone suggested once a blog tour, so you do like a bunch of different people do a blog of you. I had Ian offered to like read each other's books and then market to our audience because there's similar fantasy worlds. But I've been in university and I just haven't had the time.
A lot. It's a lot. No, it doesn't sound like you're taking some good steps. And I mean, like everything, it starts small. It has to start small.
Yeah, and I don't think like marketing my own books is ever gonna. The other thing I did was I don't think marketing my own books is ever really gonna be a huge strong point for me because I'm so shy and I'm a little bit autistic. So I like didn't even really want to do this interview. I was like, oh God, do I have to do this? Like, no, I have to do it.
We appreciate you coming on. And I hope it's been a positive experience for you.
Yeah, it has. It just, yeah, it's been quite a trying term, and it was like, okay, yeah, this is gonna happen, and I'm gonna force myself because I have to get out of my comfort zone, and right now, this is my comfort zone is like I'm more comfortable on stage,
Okay.
saying somebody else's lines or acting than I am talking about my own writing, because it's so personal, right?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So yeah, well, thank you for being here today and giving us
Yeah.
a glimpse into your world a little bit. What was I gonna say?
Yeah, I hope I didn't give too many spoilers.
Yeah, no, I didn't want you to give spoilers. I wanted to give like a tease for the
Yeah.
audience so they can be interested and hopefully look you up later. Where can people find your books? I know Amazon.
On Amazon, K.A. Thomsen. The first series is linked under the Hidden Valley.
Okay.
If you Google Hidden Valley on Amazon, you'll come up with a ranch style dressing.
Yeah,
So
that's true. That's true.
yeah, and K.A. Thomsen
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Hidden Valley, and that'll come up with the first series, and then this Griffin Big series. You should be able to search for Orphan and Sorcerer, and it should come up right away. Okay. There may be a few other things, but it should be in the first 5 or 10 results.
Okay. And what social media are you on?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn.
What's your Instagram? Because I don't think I've followed you there yet.
It's sort of more for modeling and stuff now, but it's Philosopher Queen 12.
Okay. What is it? Sorry.
Philosopher Queen 12.
Okay. I'm gonna look for you.
We were reading Plato and learning about all the different philosophers.
Okay.
For one of my courses, and I thought, well, yeah, that's kind of a cool handle.
Yeah, I like it. That's cool. Okay. Well,
not that I want everybody to be the same, and yeah. Anyway, whatever.
Okay. Well, you've told us about several of the ideas you have for the future. But like, when do we have a rough expected date for book 2 of Griffin's Egg? Do you think?
I also don't know, because my ex sort of threw out the flash drive in a rage after we broke up with the whole book 2 on it. So I've pieced parts of it together, but I don't have it yet. And the first book ends on a cliffhanger, so that's why I've been sort of like hesitant to like really market and publish this book yet. But
hey, I mean, other authors have been known for taking a long time in between their books.
Yeah, I'm like not sure. It just really depends on like what job I get in the next 6 months. I'm graduating at the end of this term. In 2 months, I'll be graduating university, and housing prices in Vancouver are inflating. So it depends if we stay here or if we like move away from the Lower Mainland and I have more leisure time to write. And it depends if I get published. I have like the historical romance, 50,000 word minimum. So it's like a short story basically. If I get that published, I make some money from that, then maybe I'll have some more time to do writing. Everything's really up in the air right now, and I really don't know what my life's gonna look like.
Hey, one day at a time. But
even 2 months from now, I don't know what it's gonna look like.
Okay. But you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram for those who want to follow you and look for updates. And your website is linked in the description, but it's your Wix site there.
Yeah, there's some cool portals you can go down the fantasy rabbit hole with me.
Oh.
I also made a book trailer for the Griffin's Egg, so that's linked in there too.
Nice. I'll have to
Yeah.
look for that. Okay, awesome. Hey, well, thanks so much for your time today. I think, it's been about an hour, so I want to
Yeah.
respect you and the listeners' time, and then I think my wife is also getting us ready for lunch, but thank you, Era, for being here today. And any last thing you want to say for the people at home watching?
No, the other thing I did for marketing was that I got my book into some local libraries.
Good.
Yeah, and
I
I
thought about
went
it.
into my son's school and I read a little bit from the Hidden Valley.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, just little things. I got it into a local chapters for a couple of years before the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and
That's
a
all.
local bookstore. So yeah, I've just really been sort of like locally focused with that first one. This one I
Hey,
want
gotta start
kind of
somewhere.
like spread out and more go global.
Sure. It sounds like
Yeah.
you're taking some good steps. And I mean, most successful authors we know today didn't do it overnight, didn't do it on their first book.
Yeah, I mean, in the library bought 2 copies, so that was nice.
Okay, great. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, thanks so much, Era, for being here today. Thank you to those at home who are watching. And hey, I'm just gonna throw this out there, like, go show Era some encouragement online. Like, go like check out her website, check out her book, follow her on social media, maybe even send her a message and tell her you're proud of all that she's doing, because we're all on the journey together. Writers need to encourage each other. And we all are busy with not just time wise, we just have a lot going on in our lives, and she's taken the steps she needs to write good books and realize her dreams. So go out there and encourage her and send her a message, send her some love or something. But thanks everyone for being here today. Thank you, Era, for your time. You can always like my page, Samuel and Harris, for future discussions and content for writers. Also sign up for my mailing list, which is in the Chippermaker link. When you sign up, you'll get a free sample of Fractured Heroes, my story, which is a few of the favorite scenes that I think you'll enjoy. And of course, go check out Era and her work too at the links provided there. So thank you for watching today. Thank you, Era, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
How you're doing. So have a great weekend.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my book. Thank you.
Sure. Glad to have you. Okay, bye.
Bye.